Back at the Tenkaichi Budokai, the announcer and judges were all scrambled to keep the crowd and fighters under control. After seeing this giant bug and someone in broad daylight, everyone was a little on edge, to say the least. Moments later, the announcer begins talking over the speakers, expressing his condolences for the loss of Shen, and then proclaiming that this tournament was cancelled. Now, while most of the fighters accepted this, Piccolo, Goku, and a disguised Kami were a little disappointed. Big Green was the first to speak up, being the most outraged and demanding that they allow him to fight. Whilst berating the announcer, several fighters attempt to get the Namekian to calm down, this resulting in them being flung across the ring and into the stands. Goku, being the Saiyan that he is, steps up to the plate and yells out that he'll fight Piccolo.
Huh, good. You're the only one here worth fighting. From one alien to another. We're the only ones who can challenge each other.
The Namekian pulled off his weights, cracking his knuckles and neck, clearly having prepared for this his whole life. Alien? What are you talking about? Goku was clearly confused, though still squared up in the ring. Piccolo went on to explain the Saiyan's origin and his own, though this was met with much skepticism. However, learning from Cell's manipulation, he asked if Goku ever wondered why he had been born with a tail, or why he could transform during a full moon, or why he always grew during or after a battle. Such traits were from the Saiyans, the race he came from. Goku, like in the Saiyan saga, begins to realize that he is a Saiyan, but if this was true, then was he the monster that ended his own grandfather? Piccolo smirks as he watches Goku struggle with the whiplash of learning so many things at once. With the Saiyan confused, Piccolo chose to attack, landing several strong hits on him and kicking him out of the ring. It would seem even Goku couldn't resist his power. That's when Tien and Kami stepped in. The Triclops attempted to land a punch while Kami prepared for the Mafuba. Tien was thrown to the side without issue, and once the Mafuba comes out, Piccolo simply powers up and dispels the attack. For everyone who could sense Ki, it felt as if the Namekian had an infinite amount of power, as even Goku was only a drop in the ocean. Just for reference, Goku's power was around 300, while Piccolo was securely in the 1K range. The Namekian announces his intention of ruling over this world, though Goku isn't going down that easily, as he stands up once more to fight, and this time, he's able to somewhat keep up. Admittedly, Piccolo is holding back, as he doesn't want this to end that quickly, meaning the two get to have a pretty intense battle. Despite Goku being on the back foot, he's used to it and can handle fighting an opponent that outclasses him. In the end, Goku is left beaten and battered on the ground, but he's spared, with Piccolo even ordering Krillin to give him a bean. This confuses Roshi and Kami, though they just think this is some sadistic move, healing Goku only to beat him down again. However, when the Sage Bean is administered, Goku's power rises exponentially, bringing him into the 800 range, something that excites Piccolo. The two begin to fight once more, their rivalry burning even brighter than previously. Across the world, Cell wasn't having a good time. He had torn through every bio-warrior within the lab, leaving only the two scientists, and what he assumes is his embryonic form within a tank. When Gero and Wheelo try to use various weapons to no effect, the android decides to explore the lab, seeing just what his presence managed to change in the past. He slaps the two scientists with his tail, critically injuring them, before walking towards some giant ball covered by a tarp.
No, don't go near that cell. With power like yours, you might set it off.
Gero reached out towards Cell, though the Bugman was already uncovering said object. He was confused, as it was just some sort of giant egg, even bigger than the one he came out of. He could sense something within, something powerful, though the shell was hard, too hard to break through. He wondered if this was something the two had cooked up, perhaps a creature they thought could take care of him.
So, You two thought this could defeat me. Instead of building 17 and 18, you decided to build this disappointment. Dr. Gero, I'm going to need you to do something for me. 2 things, in fact.
The monster crawled towards the ailing doctor, who tried to back up against the metallic wall.
1. You'll create 2 more androids that'll allow me to reach perfection. And secondly, you'll create 1 last android. 1 to keep me company. 1 of my very own kind. You can't be serious. After watching the havoc you've caused, I'd never create another monster like you.
Gero clenched his fists, and Cell noticed just how resolute he was. This, coupled with Wheelo, who was slowly making his way towards the embryo nearby, caused Cell to turn around and strike the other scientist in the neck, before absorbing him slowly. As Wheelo screamed in agony, Cell faced his creator one last time.
You have 1 year, Gero. 1 year to create another monster for me, or I'll destroy the planet you love oh so much. Save your planet, or have it destroyed. The choice is yours, Doctor.
Cell then looked at the embryo within the chamber, longing to see whatever monster it becomes. Now knowing the egg nearby was an ancient creature, according to the scientist he just absorbed, Cell opts to take the egg with him. They adamantly believed it could destroy him, or at least had the properties to do so, and that somewhat excited and scared the Bugman. He wasn't sure if he should destroy it or perhaps allow it to hatch, so for now, he'd sit on it. Once arriving back at the tournament arena, Cell found Goku and Piccolo fighting all out, though he did notice Junior not going for any lethal moves, something he knows he has. As the minutes ticked by, the fact that Junior had formed a rivalry bordering on friendship with Goku dawned on the android. At first, he was livid, as his project had seemingly failed. Piccolo was supposed to hate Goku, loathe his existence, and play the cat and mouse game with him, the two constantly chasing the other in order to become stronger. However, then another idea popped into Cell's devious mind. Perhaps, just perhaps, this could be levied in order to corrupt Goku himself. Gero once thought the Saiyan was Earth's ultimate defender, and while this was true in the future, the Saiyan still had a long way to go. Firstly, he'd need to unlock that Super Saiyan transformation, and for that, he'd need something to anger him. Watching Goku and Piccolo having fun made Cell wonder just how happy the Saiyan could be made. He knew Chi-Chi would seek him out, and that Gohan would be born in about 2 to 3 years. There was also the other Saiyans, strong rivals, with one being his own brother. Cell would make sure Goku was surrounded by strong rivals and friends. Then, when he's at his happiest, he'd snatch it all away. The Bugman found a mountainous region to hide the egg before flying off into space. He had no idea where the Saiyans may be located, but it took him no longer than 3 months to find a Frieza Force planet. Once decimating and absorbing the various soldiers, Cell allowed the strongest soldier there to live, only to interrogate him.
Wait, I'll leave this plan to you. I promise. I won't report this to Frieza. You'll have this world all to yourself.
Kui backed up against his ship, trying desperately to reach for the controls, only for Cell's tail to destroy it with one swipe, nearly taking off his head.
Well, you're right about one thing. You won't report this to Frieza. As for you, I think I'll allow you to live, if you can tell me exactly where Vegeta is.
But Vegeta?
What would you want with a weakling like that? I'm just as strong as he is. I can't...
Cell slapped Kui across the landing bay, him crashing into shipping containers.
Strength isn't everything, you know. The potential of a warrior is all that really matters. How much they can take, how much they can be broken, and come back even stronger. For instance,
Cell stomped on Qui's arm, completely squishing it beneath his heel, while the alien screamed out in pain.
if you're a real warrior, you'll find a way to surpass me and come to Earth to give me a good fight.
Qui tried to blast Cell away, giving it everything he had. The sheer force of the blast even blowing away his own scouter. But it did absolutely nothing. All Qui could do was watch Cell fly off into space before putting himself into a healing chamber. Back on Earth, things were peaceful, much like they were regularly. Piccolo wondered where Cell had gone off to, what had become of him. He had briefly felt the key of his master flying off in some faraway continent, though he had completely disappeared afterwards. The Namekian found himself feeling lonely, despite Cell being creepy and pretty socially inept. Even just sparring with him was nice. Most of the humans found Big Green to be quite frightening, leaving him isolated from everyone aside from Goku, who was always down to spar. Over the course of a year, the two became quite friendly, with Piccolo even staying in the valley nearby Mount Paozu. However, this year was nothing but terrifying for one person, and that was Gero. Luckily, he and Wheelo had contingency plans for their deaths, so the other doctor had his consciousness copied to a supercomputer in a nearby mountain, meaning he was still of use. The two continued with their work, though some corners needed to be cut in order to meet Cell's deadline. While they both agreed making another monster wasn't the best idea, it was also their only option, at least at first. Once Wheelo made a mobile robotic body for himself, he found that 13 had survived, though was in poor conditions. Since Gero needed to sleep and Android 16 wasn't allowed to be used, Wheelo figured upgrading 13 would be a good use of his free time. It took 9 months of hard work, but eventually Super Android 13, now dubbed Android 18, was assembled. Together they had 16, Wheelo's body as 17, and a new Android 18, in order to defend this space if Cell came back and wasn't pleased. Using his biotechnology and Gero's engineering expertise, the two managed to grow Android 19 past her embryonic form, even past the larval form and straight into a pupa, verging on adult. She looked similar to a human, though had a tail. Her hair was white and skin pink, likely from whatever creature the ancient egg housed. Wheelo wasn't sure if she would listen to them, especially since they didn't have time to fully synthesize whatever that creature inside the egg was. But Gero had already added its DNA, so there was no going back. By the end of the year, 19 was nearly complete, likely being in the 80th percentile range of growth, though she still needed the cultivation fluid to gestate. If she were released, who knows what adverse effects would come about. Wheelo had also begun work on an Android 20 and 21, both being absorption models that Gero had thought about prior to Cell's arrival in the past. However, they weren't quite complete, basically just being skeletons when the Bugman visited.
Gero, is that her? My, she's perfect. Speaking of which, where's 17 and 18? I require perfection for myself.
Cell scanned the various pods within the room, smirking once he read the numbers on them. He disregarded 16s, though was suspicious of the ones marked 20 and 21. Oh well, he'd just have to destroy them once he was perfect. However, once opening the pods and subsequently being attacked, Cell found himself feeling anything but perfect. Wheelo's mobile body was powerful, sure, but the giant blue guy, number 18, was insanely powerful. Between the two of them, they were able to give Cell a run for his money, actually posing viable threats to the android. However, something the Bugman had over them was the fact that he could endlessly regenerate. No matter how many ki blasts came his way, or how many punches to the gut, face, or abdomen. He always stood back up, ready to take more. But the bots, despite having infinity engines, their bodies wore out. A key attack here, a slice from Cell's tail, dents, and other damages took their toll on the androids, and eventually, Cell was able to overcome them, leaving him alone with Gero.
So, you thought I'd fall to such a derelict creation. They were hardly androids worthy of your magnum opus, Doctor. Now, I've been thinking, if I can just absorb you, then I should be able to create her just the way I want to. Huh?
Gero got up and attempted to run, but was pinned down and struck in the neck. The monster was about to absorb its creator, though for some reason he hesitated to do so. It was a brief moment though, and passed quickly. However, it did allow Wheelo to activate his last-ditch measure. 16's pod opened up, and the android grabbed Cell from behind. Gero screamed out a name Cell had never heard before, and 16 began to glow, all while the monster attempted to wriggle free of its grasp. The explosion could be seen from miles away, as not only 16's bomb was set off, but 17 and 18's as well. Wheelo had uploaded his and Gero's consciousness to their secondary base, though at the moment they were simply stuck within a supercomputer with no way of contacting the outside world. They had lost every single android, but their knowledge of those creations persisted. They would simply have to use what little they had to make sure their job was done. Back at the original lab, or crater as it was now, the monster managed to regenerate from its nucleus, taking so much damage, nearly being off like that, it rattled Cell. He had taken so many risks and believed nothing could have possibly hurt him at full power. He should have known the doctor would cook something up like that on the fly. Well, he was gone now, along with everything else in the lab. Wait. Cell frantically sensed the area around him, trying to find any living creature in the vicinity, and to his astonishment, there was something there. He flew over the vast crater, finding Android 19. She was gazing up into the sky, watching the radiated snow that had begun falling back to the earth. Standing in the middle of such destruction, snow falling into her hair and eyes as red as crimson, Cell felt his heart skip a beat. She was beautiful. However, when spotting him, she quickly backed away, being quite frightened of his appearance and giving him the same look everybody else did. Who are you? And where am I? The pink android stuck her hand out as Cell closed in, accidentally firing off a key blast, though she didn't mean to.
Calm down. I am Cell, and I saved you from a life of servitude with those scientists. I'll explain everything in due time, but for now, all I ask is that you take my hand, my dear.
The girl was clearly never hooked up to the supercomputer, meaning she had no idea what was going on, who she was, or even what she was. Having every reason to do so, she took Cell's hand, and the two flew off into the distance. But that is where we'll be leaving things off for right now. If you enjoyed this part and want to see some more intensely changed timelines, why don't you check out this video to the right? But even if you don't, thank you guys for getting this far in the video. You guys have a good day or night wherever you are. That's it for now. Bye bye.